Every benchmark out there says Fable and Sol are neck and neck. I tested them both. They're not. In some aspects, Fable completely crosses 5.6 Sol, and in some aspects, 5.6 Sol completely crosses Fable. Here is where each one wins and where it doesn't. Let's get started with the most obvious thing, that is cost. In terms of cost, 5.6 Sol completely crosses out Fable. Fable is twice as expensive as Sol, only in terms of base model price. And we are not talking about token efficiencies or anything. If we are talking about that, Fable comes out to be much more expensive than Sol because it is much less token efficient and it is much more expensive. Talking in terms of numbers, Fable is $10 in and $50 out, and Sol is $5 in and $30 out. And if we are talking about token efficiencies, we can look into one of the best benchmarks that is available at the moment, that is DeepSuite. And here we can see that Fable at its maximum is producing 119k tokens, while Sol is only outputting 60k tokens, which makes 5.6 Sol even less expensive. Now, in terms of design and the UI capabilities and the taste of the model, Fable 5 is unbeatable in the industry. There is no model out there that is close to Fable. And 5.6, although much better than 5.5 in terms of design, it is nowhere close. Fable completely wins in this design category. Another category that I will be talking about is willingness to do task. In this category, I'll put Sol above Fable because Sol is so much more eager to do the task and it's so much willing to do the task. It just keeps going until it's done. It does not stop at all. We have to be the one to clearly define the task and tell it to stop. This can go both ways. In some tasks it is good, and in some tasks it is really bad because it can go into a spiral and then waste a lot of tokens, but it's really eager to do the task and it will get your job done if you give it. Here, Sol wins. Now let's get into one of the most fundamental differences these two models have. That is understanding the intent of the user. Here, Fable is so much more ahead than 5.6. Fable understands the hidden meaning behind your prompt. It knows what you exactly want and it can guide you in the right path. So whenever I've worked with Fable, what I found out is most of the things that it suggests, most of the path that it drives me towards, it is often correct. After 3 or 4 iterations, I would have come to that conclusion. But Fable guides me from the beginning itself. In this case, 5.6 Sol is not as good. It only does the task that you exactly tell it to. It is not as smart as Fable. So why this is the fundamental difference is because of the size of the model. Fable is much larger than Sol. There are rumors that Fable is 10 trillion parameter model and Sol is just 2 to 4 trillion parameter model. So the size differences between these models is clearly visible in terms of their smartness and in terms of their ability to understand the hidden meaning behind the prompt, ability to understand what the user actually wants, what is the user actually referring to, what are they trying to get at. So all those kinds of hidden expectation that a person would have from another person, Fable has that capability to understand that, while 5.6 does not. It just does what you tell it to do. So this intent understanding ability makes Fable much more better for the task that we just don't want to deal with and want to hand off to the AI. Because Fable has this understanding of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, it will go figure it out and do the task. So this makes it much more appealing and much more better for the quote-unquote vibe coders out there who don't want to look at the code, who don't want to review the code, or let's just say who don't even understand the code. You cannot get far with Fable alone. You need skill as well, but for doing simple things like creating landing pages, creating one-off things that you just run once and never do it again. So in these kind of small tasks, which don't have any clarity and you are the one who are not capable enough to understand what the model outputs, in those cases, I would refer you to Fable. And also in terms of coding, in terms of technical people, we sometimes don't want to deal with understanding what the entire code base looks like, what the entire feature is going to look like. We just want to put it out there. This is generally a bad habit, but sometimes we do want to do that. In that case, Fable is a lot better. Fable is really good at knowing what to do and how to do, and when to do and when not to do. So all these kind of things make Fable really good for research tasks, for planning tasks, for orchestrating. While 5.6 is also good at doing all these kind of things, it is not as good as Fable. The small model vibe is instantly visible in 5.6 Sol. It does not understand your intent well. It does not handle all the quirks that a UI has, quirks that an application has. It just tries to do it surfacely. Saying it surfacely would be downplaying Sol, but that is what I feel like it. 5.6 Sol sometimes lacks that taste, the understanding, the intent that Fable has. So this intent understanding win goes to Fable. Output quality is one of those things that you don't think about until you have to. In this case, I would clearly put 5.6 Sol below Fable all day. There's no questions on it. The output quality, the code quality that Fable produces is so much more cleaner. 5.6 just produces like absolute garbage quality code. It writes like deeply nested, highly branching code. It tries to handle all the edge cases, which in fact don't even need to be handled. We will never get to those edge cases ever in terms of our code, but it does it anyways. It writes like 30 try-catch blocks. And it's just so unmaintainable and so unreadable. It works, but at the cost of really unmaintainable code. But Fable, in the other hand, knows exactly what kind of things it needs to handle, what are the types, what are the actual things where it needs to write try-catch, and the quality of the code that it outputs is so much more better. It's so much more pleasant to look at and read the code. If you are trying to make the code much more maintainable, much more readable, mergeable. So in all these cases, you should lean towards Fable 5. What you can actually do is get one pass of 5.6 because of the token efficiencies and all the quotas that ChatGPT gives. Write one pass of the code and tell Fable to go and fix all that code in terms of quality, not in terms of functionality, because I don't think we can see any difference between Fable and 5.6 Sol in terms of functionality of the code. It's just the quality of the code. So this still comes down to taste of the Claude model, which is generally much better. In this regard, Opus 4.8 also writes much more higher quality code than 5.6. Although Opus is not as capable as 5.6, it does write much more higher quality, cleaner code. So in this category, Fable wins out all day, and this is not even comparable. Writing and general talking are much more subjective topic that I will cover. But in terms of the way model talk, in terms of the way model writes, I like Fable a lot. This is not because it's Fable, this is because it's Claude. It's the Claudism which I like. I don't like how ChatGPT or GPT models usually talk and usually output their writing. In this case, Claude models are really great. This is a really subjective topic, but for this one, I would give it to Fable. So at last, which one should you actually choose? This is not as straightforward as you think it is. This is also a really subjective thing. There is no clear winner between Fable and Sol. It depends on what type of task you actually do. What is your day-to-day usage of AI looks like. So here are a couple of things that I could actually suggest you to do. First thing is, if you want the absolute best of the best and you don't care about the price, you have infinite tokens, you can get as many subs as you want, clearly go for Fable. If you want something that is best value for its money, then go with Sol. You cannot be wrong on that one as well. If you have money, get the $20 tier for both the labs, Anthropic as well as OpenAI, and try to see which model you like the most. It could be that you like that intent understanding ability of Fable, which I like the most. And it also might be that you might like the token efficiency, which makes GPT model much faster and pleasant to work with in terms of iteration. You might like the usage limit available in the Codex sub, which I do. So this question about which model should you choose is entirely up to you. So I would suggest you to push the models to their limit in terms of your workflow. Try to see which model performs best. Try to see what is it that a certain model is not able to do. You can also swap out repetitive tasks with much cheaper models like Grok 4.5. That's also a really good model if you have a task that is spec'd out entirely and it's just a matter of execution. In that case, Grok 4.5 is one of the most best and the cheapest choice. So all of it comes down to your choice. So I would suggest you to push the models to their limit and experiment. That is how you know which model you like. So that's it. Peace out, nerds.